to President Trump and to build a strong economy. Canadians also sent a clear message that their cost of living must come down and their communities need to be safe. As Prime Minister, I've heard these messages loud and clear, and I will act on them with focus and determination. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes ont fait entendre.
Canadians made their voices heard with a voter turnout rate that hasn't been seen in the last 30 years. Nearly 20 million Canadians voted, and even more of them voted in early voting than ever before.
The engagement of Canadians at rallies, on social media, and around the dinner table was very high. And while different visions were put forth by various contenders, we disagreed agreeably, and the leader of every party quickly and graciously accepted the results. At a time when democracies around the world are under threat, Canadians can be proud that ours remains strong. As I've been clear since day one of my leadership campaign in January, I'm in politics to do big things, not to be something. And now that Canadians have honored me with a mandate to bring about big changes quickly, I will work relentlessly to fulfill that trust. As I stressed on election night, I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in Cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament, working in real partnership with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples, and bringing together labor, business, and civil society to advance the nation-building investments that will transform our economy. In the coming weeks, I will unveil more of our plans to engage with Canadians as we embark on the biggest transformation of our economy since the end of the Second World War. This will be an incredibly exciting time as we take control of our economic destiny to create a new Canadian economy that works for everyone. We will begin to set out that new path for Canada with a new cabinet to be sworn in on the week of the 12th of May and the recall of Parliament on May 26th. We will have the privilege of welcoming His Majesty King Charles III, who will deliver Canada's speech from the throne on May 27th. Her Majesty the Queen will join this visit. This is an historic honor which matches the weight of our times. Je sais que beaucoup de Canadiens et Canadiennes partagent mon...
I know that many Canadians share my enthusiasm about this.
To the immediate priorities of my government, beginning with our relationship with the United States. As I've stressed repeatedly, our old relationship, based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future and where we in Canada will move on. Peu après le début de campagne électorale.
Shortly after the start of the election campaign, I met with President Trump, or I spoke to him. We both agreed.
On Tuesday, I had a very constructive call with President Trump, and we agreed to meet next Tuesday in Washington. Our focus will be on both immediate trade pressures and the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations. My government will fight to get the best deal for Canada. We will take all the time necessary, but not more, in order to do so. In parallel, we will strengthen our relationships with reliable trading partners and allies. Canada has what the world needs, and we will uphold the values the world respects. Au cours des derniers jours, je me suis entretenu avec le président Macron, le président du Conseil européen d'Acosta, le Premier ministre du Japon, Ishiba, et le secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Guterres. J'ai aussi parlé au président Zelensky, auprès de qui j'ai réaffirmé l'engagement du Canada envers le peuple ukrainien. Dans les semaines et les mois à venir, je saisirai toutes les occasions d'échanger avec nos alliés et partenaires pour bâtir des relations renforcées, fondées sur des valeurs nous allons faire preuve de leadership à l'international. Nous supportons d'ailleurs l'occasion d'en faire la démonstration alors que le Canada présidera du sommet du G7. We will reinforce our strength here at home by building an economy that creates jobs, grows incomes, and withstands shocks. Pour y arriver, nous allons bâtir une seule économie canadienne au lieu de 13. D'ici la fête du Canada, mon gouvernement aura contribué à l'atteinte de cet objectif. We will remove federal barriers to internal trade by July 1st to help unleash the full potential of Canada. We will work with provinces, territories, and Indigenous groups to identify projects that are in the national interest, projects that will connect Canada, deepen our ties with the world, and grow our economy for generations. We'll make the Canadian government a catalyst for these projects, not an impediment. And we'll always be guided by our conviction that our economy is only strong when it serves everyone. That means bringing down costs for Canadians and helping them get ahead. So we will put more money in Canadians' pockets with a middle-class tax cut that will take effect by Canada Day, saving two-income families up to $825 a year. We'll protect the programs that save families thousands of dollars a year, including pharmacare and $10 a day daycare. We will expand the Canadian Dental Care Plan to 8 million Canadians, saving the average family over $800 per visit. To lower costs for first-time homebuyers, we will cut GST on new homes at or under $1 million, allowing them to save up to $50,000, and we will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. These tax measures will provide immediate relief, but they won't be sufficient to make housing affordable again. For that, we have to build. We will address failures in the housing market head-on, unleashing the power of public-private cooperation at a scale not seen in generations. We will slash development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. That's about $40,000 off the cost of a two-bedroom apartment in Toronto. And we will create an entirely new Canadian housing industry in modular and prefabricated housing using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. We will build houses faster, at lower costs, with a smaller environmental footprint in construction and greater efficiency once families move in. And to kickstart these efforts, we will create a new entity, Build Canada Homes, and provide $25 billion in financing to private developers. Nous allons construire 2 fois plus.
We will build 2.5 times more homes per year and create an entirely new construction industry using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber.
My government will focus on keeping Canada secure as a sovereign nation and Canadians safe in their communities. We'll build a stronger Canadian armed forces to protect Canadians, defend our sovereignty, and support our allies. We will strengthen our border security with 1,000 more CBSA officers, as well as scores of dog teams, drones, and scanners to fight the traffic of guns and drugs. We'll strengthen Canadian law enforcement by hiring 1,000 more RCMP officers and giving law enforcement more tools to fight crime. We will toughen the criminal code and bail laws for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, human trafficking, and smuggling. Nous allons bâtir la confiance en notre système de justice.
We will build confidence in our justice system and do the same with our immigration system.
Our immigration to sustainable levels by capping the total number of temporary workers and international students at less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027. That's a sharp drop from the recent high of 7.3%, and this will help ease strains on housing, on public infrastructure, and social services. At the same time, we will work to attract the best talent in the world to build our economy. Canada has what everyone wants. We're a confident nation that celebrates our diversity, that believes in and practices free speech, that respects the rule of law, that has a vibrant democracy. We value innovators and builders. We trust science. We protect our immense natural heritage. For Canadians abroad thinking about returning to build their lives in our nation, there's never been a better time to come home. Dans toutes nos actions, nous serons guidés.
In all our actions, we will be guided by a new budgetary discipline. Our government will spend less so that Canadians can invest more.
Day-to-day government spending. The government's operating budget has been growing by an unsustainable 9% every year. We will bring that down to 2%, less than half the average nominal growth rate of the economy. We will not cut any transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals. Instead, we'll balance our operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplicative programs, and deploying technology to boost public sector productivity. We will use scarce taxpayer dollars to catalyze massive private investment. By working together, we can give ourselves far more than the Americans can ever take away. By working together, we can build Canada strong. Pour surmonter les défis auxquels nous faisons face,
in order to overcome our challenges, Canada must be united. And we will be steered and guided by this approach. And I have exchanged with opposition leaders, and I told them that I intended to work with them in order to make our government more effective, support our workers, our businesses, and put our economy back on track. I have also exchanged with the premiers of provinces and territories who are essential partners for the federal government. And I expect to continue with them the work that was started when we met amongst Prime Minister and premiers, and we agreed to bring down the barriers which slow down interprovincial trade and workforce movement.
A variety of teams passionately against each other. But when they're in a once-in-a-lifetime series such as the Four Nations or the Olympics, those same Canadians come together to win it all. During elections, Canadians play and cheer for different teams. Now that election is over, and we are in a once-in-a-lifetime crisis. It's time together, it's time to come together to put on our Team Canada sweaters and win big. Il est temps d'être unis. It
is now time to be united. When United Canada has achieved things which seemed impossible,
to meet this crisis with an overwhelming positive force that is a united Canada. It's time to build, and my government is getting to work to build big, bold, and build now. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. We will go to the room for questions. One question, one follow. Because there is a long list, let's try and keep the questions as short as possible. We'll start with Ashley Burke from CBC.
Good morning, Prime Minister. What specifically do you want to get out of your first in-person meeting with President Trump, and will you be focused on trying to get the tariffs lifted?
Thank you for the question. For the first meeting, as I mentioned in my remarks, and the President and I discussed when we had our constructive call, there are two sets of issues. There are the immediate tariffs, both sectoral and so-called reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs, and then there is the broader relationship. So addressing both sets of issues. We'll see how that progress goes. It's important to get engaged immediately, which has always been my intention, has always been his intention, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity for quite a comprehensive set of meetings that will take place on Tuesday.
How do you avoid an Oval Office ambush like we saw happen to President Zelensky?
Look, I go there with the expectation of constructive, difficult, but constructive discussions. That's the spirit of the conversations that the President and I had. You go to these meetings well prepared, understanding the objectives of your counterpart, and always acting in the best interest of Canada, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Mélanie Marquis, La Presse.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney.
Good morning, Mr. Carney. Congratulations. You wanted to have a strong mandate during election. Now you have a minority government. So what is that changing for you and also in the, say, power challenge with the U.S. administration, the Trump administration? Thank you for your congratulations. Thank you for your question. Throughout the election campaign, I was very clear. We had to confront the Americans. We have to confront the Americans and develop a bold strategy with ambitious projects and also a new international partnerships. Also, we had more than 8.5 million votes, which is the highest number of votes in any election in Canada. We have MPs in every province, and we have a majority in 7 provinces out of 10. And we have the highest level of MPs in Quebec since 1980, if I'm not mistaken. And also the highest in the history of British Columbia. So our campaign was quite transparent. We have a clear platform, a program, and a clear mandate. Now we have to work in cooperation with provinces and territories, starting with Quebec, in order to implement this mandate. Well, is that changing the power balance with the Trump administration? Well, you have a minority government. Would you be willing to bring in the Liberal caucus or cabinet members of opposition parties in order to convince them to cross the line or help? Well, I said that I already have a strong, certainly clear mandate, and our objectives are clear. I had a very constructive conversation with Mr. Blanchet regarding a Canadian strategy, and a constructive conversation with Mr. Poiliev regarding our Canada-US strategy. So there's only one Prime Minister, and our objectives are similar. So I consider this as a strong mandate for me, and it's very clear for Mr. Trump, who is the Canadian Prime Minister. Mr. Carney, good morning. You know that Mr. Poiliev hasn't won a seat in Parliament, so he will have to ask somebody to yield a seat and at the next by-election. So what will be your criteria in order to hold that by-election, or are we waiting until November? I already indicated to Mr. Poiliev that I will be triggering a by-election if the Conservatives decide so to go in that direction, and this as soon as possible. That
if it's the decision of him and the Conservative Party to trigger, if I can put it that way, a by-election, I will ensure that it happens as soon as possible.
Okay.
No games, nothing, straight.
OK. Et donc, je n'aurai pas de supplémentaire là-dessus, mais vous avez dit aussi que vous avez demandé au roi de venir. Vous avez dit aussi
supplementary on this, but you said that you asked the king to come and read a speech from the throne, and as you know, you gained a number of seats in Quebec because the nationalist people who are not necessarily in love with royalty or monarchy, how would you explain that? It's very simple. Firstly, I asked the king and His Majesty, and he accepted to be the one coming to the opening of Parliament. That's clear. Secondly, this decision that we made emphasizes that Canada is a sovereign country. And this is a very clear message for other countries throughout the world, and it is an honor for us.
To be clear, I made the request of His Majesty, and he has accepted. He will open Parliament with the speech from the throne, and that is it clearly underscores the sovereignty of our country.
In what way, though? En quelle façon ça souligne la souveraineté de demander au monarque de notre pays?
C'est la troisième question, ou c'est quoi?
Yeah, but my question was cut off.
Okay, yeah. In what way? It underscores this is the ultimate head of state, which underscores one of the points I made. I'll answer it this way. Quand j'ai suis devenu Premier ministre.
This is the first, when I became Prime Minister for the first time, I mentioned who were the founding peoples of Canada, the Indigenous people and the French and the English peoples. So this gives us the foundation of our nation, the Canadian nation.
Kenzie Gray, Global.
Hi, Mr. Carney. In your second call with the president, did Mr. Trump outright say or insinuate at any point that Canada should become the 51st state?
He did not.
All right. We've heard Mr. Trump on April 23rd and his surrogates throughout the final days of the campaign reiterate the idea that they believe Canada should become the 51st state. On the campaign trail, you said on multiple occasions that respect for Canada would be one of the key things in terms of having a meeting with him. Do you think over the past few days we have seen respect for Canada from the Trump administration?
Look, it's always important to distinguish want from reality. La volonté et la réalité, right? What someone wants and what is reality, and what the Canadian people clearly have stated, virtually without exception, is this will never, ever happen. And if any of the leaders of the party and their representatives would attest to that, I think the votes attest to it. I think the public dialogue attests to it as well. We're meeting as heads of our government to discuss that partnership. Now, I'm not pretending those discussions will be easy, or they won't proceed in a straight line. There will be zigs and zags, ups and downs. But as I said in my remarks, I will fight for the best deal for Canada, and only accept the best deal for Canada, and take as much time that's necessary.
Davis Legree, iPolitics.
Hi, thanks for taking our questions. Just one from me to try and squeeze some more reporters in. But to my colleague's point, the White House's public position has continued to be that Canada should be the 51st state. You yourself have said that Donald Trump is trying to break Canada. Considering all that, how can you expect good faith negotiations when you travel to Washington next week?
Look, I think first I've had the direct conversation with him on whatever day it was, Tuesday, I guess it was, a couple of days ago, and we agreed to have those negotiations. Very clear discussion between us, as I said, very constructive, and I would say the time allocated to our meeting and the seniority of he's the president, so that's as senior as you get, but the other members of his administration who will be assisting at those meetings suggests the seriousness of the discussions. Again, do not expect white smoke out of that meeting. There'll be white smoke probably later somewhere else in the world this month, but do not expect that. But so that's the first thing, is just the level of the direct dialogue, the discussion, the level of people there. The second point, I'll make it quickly, and thank you for restricting the questions so others can get in, is that he respects, as others who are good negotiators, and he's one of the best negotiators, they respect strength. That's why we're building Canada strong. There's lots of reasons to build Canada strong, but the point is, and I will make this point repeatedly, we have more than enough to do here at home. That point about we can give ourselves more than the Americans can take away is absolutely right. We can have a bigger boost to our economy, to incomes, to jobs, by focusing on building one Canadian economy, by building these nation-building projects, by focusing on getting productivity up, by reducing government waste, by driving investment in this country. And so that is a good in and of itself. We're going to focus on that while we have these negotiations with the Americans. And if the negotiations with the Americans take longer, so be it. We've got more than enough to do here.
Kyle Duggan, the Canadian Press.
Mr. Carney, will you be pursuing a formal governing pact of any kind with the NDP?
No. Short answer, no.
And why not?
Why? That's my response. Is we campaigned on a very clear set of objectives, very clear policies to back those up, and we received the highest number of votes in Canadian history. Yes, it is not quite a majority, but highest number of votes. As I said moments ago, majorities in 7 of the 10 provinces, seats in all the provinces, highest vote totals and deputy counts in a number of those provinces. And it's also a style of governing as well, which is in order to do what we need to do as a country, we will need to work in partnership with all the provinces, with Indigenous peoples. Yes, obviously, by definition in Parliament, we will need to get majority support to pass legislation. But this is legislation that Canadians, or at least we will be putting forth legislation that's consistent with our platform and consistent with the requirements of the time. And I will remind that it's not just words. We are in a crisis. If you look at the terrible manifestation of that today in Oshawa for the GM workers, 2,000 GM workers, and I'll just express my deepest sympathy for them and their families. A very difficult time. We are committed to supporting workers. All the dollars from our tariffs going to support workers. Fighting hard for our auto sector, all our sectors, in these negotiations with the Americans, and making sure that companies act in true partnership as well in maintaining employment and investment in Canada. And if not, there will be consequences for those companies. Thank you.
Louis Blouin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney.
Good morning, Mr. Carney. In your vision of the negotiations with Mr. Trump, do you believe that U.S. tariffs should be eliminated before you begin to negotiate a comprehensive economic agreement? We'll see. It's an option. I don't want to negotiate in public, basically. There will be difficult discussions. For example, in our view, the fentanyl-related tariffs, we don't understand why they're still in place. Those negotiations will be complicated.
The essence of my answer was I don't want to negotiate in public, so I'm not sure I need to add the other words that were around it. But look, it is complex. Particularly, there are examples where, certainly from our perspective, the fentanyl tariffs, were not merited to begin with, but are even less merited given all the steps that the government of Canada has taken and the progress that's been made. This will be a broader discussion, and it's one of the cards that they have, and therefore we'll see how it plays out.
D'après vous, qu'est-ce que Donald Trump veut dans cette négociation?
In your view, what does Donald Trump really want in these negotiations? Well, that is one of the things that we'll have to discuss. There are some goals that seem to be clear. A balance, a trade balance, first of all. A stop to fentanyl trafficking and an increase in military spending. That's a third thing. And the U.S. goals seem to change. Goalposts move. There's some volatility there. But as far as we're concerned, we want a win-win agreement with the U.S. in a world that's becoming increasingly divided and dangerous. There are strategic sectors that are strategic for both the U.S. and for Canada. So one question is, will we cooperate in those sectors? And they include critical minerals, automotive, aluminium, energy. Or do we divide the North American market? That would not be the right move, clearly. But if that is what the U.S. president wants, Canada does have other options, and that is clear.
Time for one more very fast question. Catherine Levesque from the National Post.
Okay, I'll try to make it two very fast.
Good.
Prime
That's the
Minister.
spirit. That's the spirit, Catherine. That'll get me coming back.
Your party picked up seats across the country but lost a few seats in Ontario. Why do you think that is, and did those seats cost you your majority?
Well, I think arithmetically, yes, but we could pick other, other seats that went various ways. We'll reflect on that. I think as I said at the top, what I take as the Canadians voted for many reasons in different circumstances. First and foremost, what we've been talking about most of this time, standing up to the Americans, getting the best deal for Canada. That's there. Relatedly, a strong economy that works for everyone. But also, clearly, affordability issues. We had a big focus on affordability, security, and safety. That's what we take. That's what we take as maybe I should say personally, I take as the mandate that the focus of this government should be on those issues. As you know, to govern is to choose. You have to decide where you're going to focus. And I'm signaling, and of course there will be a speech from the throne and subsequent communications, but I'm signaling clearly where that focus is.
And can we expect your cabinet to be larger than your previous one, and will François-Philippe Champagne remain as finance minister?
Did he ask you to ask that question? Now we know your sources. Yeah. We will look. I committed to an efficient cabinet, a focused cabinet, cabinet with parity, gender parity, and we'll work towards it. Those final decisions haven't been made, so Monsieur Champagne he will have to wait. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much.
I think we have to respect the president of the. But we have to respect the.
I am truly sorry, but the Prime Minister does have to go.
Yeah, bien sûr, of course. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Yeah.